Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of the Inside Bowling Show. Big news this morning with the PBA. PBA is back on Fox, and I'd like to bring up the press release now in case you didn't see it. PBA bowling is back. June 6th marks the return to live bowling on Fox for the first annual PBA Strike Derby. The release goes on to say that the Professional Bowlers Association will be back live on Fox Saturday, June 6th from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern in that primetime slot, with the first ever PBA Strike Derby beginning a series of exciting special events over the next 2 months featuring the greatest bowlers in the world. The players that it's featuring is the Go Bowling PBA Tour stars in Tommy Jones, Kyle Troop, Sean Rash, EJ Tackett, Chris Prather, Sean Maldonado, Anthony Simonson, and Bill O'Neill. So those are the players that we are going to see getting back out on the lanes. The release goes on to also talk about the following week, an hour earlier, is going to be the PBA Summer Clash with the same players, but a twist. There are going to be 2 additional players inserted from the PWBA Tour, the 2 leaders in points, Shannon O'Keefe and Danielle McEwen. And then also released a little bit later here in this release is the PBA King of the Lanes will also be taking place, and we'll be trying to get some details of those here in the show. Today on the show, I'm going to welcome in just a moment the PBA CEO, Colie Edison, and Tom Clark, the commissioner of the PBA Tour. And I want to thank them both for taking some time today to be able to talk about these things, that it is a really big story here, not only in bowling, but in professional sports. So without any further ado, let's bring in both of our guests today. Let's bring in Colie and Tom, and I appreciate both of them being here today on this Inside Bowling special show. Thank you for being on the show today, both of you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks a lot, Mike. Nice shirt. Nice shirt. That's about 2001, 2002.
I love it. I want one of those. That's retro.
I think it's 2002. Yeah.
I got it from Bob Benoit. Bob Benoit hooked me up with this. So 300 on TV. So guys, thanks for joining me on the program here today. This is really exciting news today. And I think before we get started with the show, if you could all put your hands up a little bit, let's have a virtual high five for bowling. What do you say? A little high five right here for bowling.
Yeah, elbows.
Oh, Colie, you one upped us there with the elbow. That is the right way to do it in today's world. I'm high fiving today. So, Colie, the first thing I want to get right into this. Why was it so important to get bowling back on television and the drive for that?
Yeah, I mean, bowling's exposure on national television is key to growing the sport. We've always said that. And for me, I was really devastated when we had to end our tour early and postpone it. So I have been working day in and day out to get us back on TV. I think one of the core elements of bowling and why we are well positioned to be on television during this time is that we can safely produce our shows. And I think that's key. So while other leagues out there are figuring it out, we were able to figure it out quicker, faster. And being first movers in this space is really important because we can attract more eyeballs. So I have always been a big proponent of getting the biggest audiences possible. And for me, this is a time where we can capture a large audience and maybe introduce new fans who haven't watched PBA for years to come back or have never watched it before and see everything that we've changed. And by putting together our most elite athletes, our top players, they're going to see the best bowling ever. And we've created some really fun events that suit itself well for TV, and especially in the new normal that we're working with today.
Yeah, Colie, tell me a little bit about the safety precautions that go into play with being able to bring these events to fruition.
Yeah, first and foremost, it's social distancing. So unlike a 5-on-5 basketball team or a baseball team or a football, we are actually able to do these events, with one person on a lane at a time, one person on a pair. So there will always be, or we will try to always observe 6 feet of distance at all times. We're also providing the necessary PPE for the staff, for the crew. When the bowlers are not playing, they will have the PPE on. Our centers, this is taking place at Bolero Jupiter, which has the highest level of sanitization, and cleaning specifications to date. We're working closely with the CDC guidelines. We've developed our own guidebook. So we are taking safety very, very seriously. We're not hosting a US Open type of event or, one of our normal tournaments where you have hundreds of people and you have qualifying rounds and you have lots of people in the center. No, the center is going to be very limited. There will be no audience for these shows, and only essential staff, crew, athletes, and their support staff will be able to be inside the building. Safety will be first and foremost when we go to produce these events.
That's awesome, and I'm sure that's not easy to do. So we wish you the best of luck with that, and we know you're up for the challenge for that. Also, before we get to the formats and that, which we know Tom's going to want to speak to, especially, I also want to talk about these formats from the PWBA. I saw the second one is the PWBA included in the Clash. Why was the PWBA brought into that, and your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I have always thought that bowling is able to, on the recreational side, bowling goes, it's that thing that can be all things to all people. So whether you're young, old, female, male, you can bowl. And for me, I've always wanted to point a bigger spotlight on the women in our sport. Being a female CEO in a male-dominated sport, that's always been one of my goals. And we love working closely with the PWBA. And given the unique format and the large audience size that's available to us, I thought it was a great opportunity to invite the top 2 point earners from the PWBA tour onto our events.
Yeah, one of the key things to have success in bowling is collaboration, and you see it not only in bowling but anywhere, whether it's YouTube stars collaborating together to get more followers over on YouTube or whatever it may be. And the fact that you're working with the PWBA or that you're able to do this, I think, is just another opportunity here to just point out that bowling can work together and do great things. So that's awesome. I'm gonna switch it over to Tom for time constraints here today. I wanna ask Tom when it comes to these formats here. Obviously you guys had to act quickly and come up with some sort of formats and who to choose. What went into making the formats and who you chose to be on those shows?
First on who we chose to be part of the show, the shows, definitely wanted to have a criteria and a way for players to have earned their way onto the shows. And it was pretty easy to look back at our season. We already finished almost 80% of our 2020 PBA on Fox season. And it was an incredible season. I mean, every week you had these great matches in the championship matches and a great diverse list of winners. So we just took the winner of every event, from the PBA Hall of Fame Classic that Tommy Jones won that no one will ever forget, was a 300 game, all the way down to the PBA World Championship was our last event. Now, obviously, Belmo and Jesper Svensson both won events this year, and because of international travel restraints, they're not able to come. So we just went to the next best finisher in those events that either Belmo or Jesper won. So got an awesome field. I mean, Kyle Troop, Chris Prather, Sean Rash, Bill O'Neill, remember the Players' Championship he won. And then the guys who came in second in tournaments are some of our top players as well, like E.J. Tackett, Anthony Simonson, and Sean Maldonado getting a crack at a special event show like this. Should be fun to watch. To the formats, we just had to have things that were exciting. I mean, we're looking for excitement. And we've, through the years, we've had opportunities to test some of these things, like the Clash. The Clash is going to be the one that airs June 13th. We know that format's almost unbeatable in terms of being exciting, where everybody gets to throw a ball. The low person is out. If there's ties, they roll off. And every round, one person is eliminated until you're down to the last two, and it comes down to one ball and for a championship. And it's really just electric all the way through. The first time we tried that, was a Chris Paul event. And it was, and you know who won, Mike? It was the first ever Clash that had a multiple people. And you'll remember when I tell you, Nelly.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And Nelly with Lil Wayne, and Rhino Page was actually in that competition, but he didn't get through past Nelly.
Nelly will not be on this summer's event. We are talking to Nelly's people, but I don't think it's gonna happen.
Someday he'll come back. He's a very good bowler. Very good bowler. He bowls with Pete Weber. He used to bowl with Pete back in the day. So, okay, so we have the Clash, and we knew that's going to be a great format. That's going to be the one that the women are also involved with, and we'll get to a field of 10. The Strike Derby, we've never done a full Strike Derby, but again, at the Chris Paul event last year, we tried something called speed bowling. And it was Sean Rash against Andrew Anderson. Whoever could get the most strikes in 2 minutes. They go on the clock, they get 2 minutes to get as many strikes as they can. Very similar to Major League Baseball's Home Run Derby, where you get up and you got as much. You have 2 minutes, or I can't remember their time. I think it's 5 minutes in Major League Baseball Home Run Derby to get as many home runs as you can. And so we're gonna have a really cool contest where all 8 guys will seed themselves by going through the lineup one at a time. They'll be the only person on the pair of lanes, and they'll post their score. We'll seed them, then put them into a bracket, and and play it down until we have the first ever PBA Strike Derby champion. And again, with the Chris Paul event being a place where we can try things, I remember we did this last year, and when it was over, two guys came right up to me immediately and said, when can I do that? And I want to do that. And one was Mookie Betts and one was Chris Paul. And when you have guys like that they're that cool and really were so turned on by it. If you watch the old clip, you see they're the first guys off the bench wanting to hug our players when they were done, because it was really exciting to watch and just really cool. I mean, I think people are going to be really turned on by this. It's going to be exciting for us too to put that on. And whenever we're really excited as a staff and as a production team, it creates even more focus and usually leads to very memorable shows. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it looks really cool. Colie, what do you think about the time slots that you were given from Fox? And did you ask for those, or did they alley-oop those over to you to slam dunk?
Oh, well, you should know I am always asking for primetime on Big Fox. So this is the result of us really just working together. They've had a lot of unknowns in their world. You know, when is MLB coming back? What days and times are NASCAR going to be on? And both of these events actually are NASCAR adjacent. So that's the best part. So we're going to be coming right off of a big NASCAR show and hopefully bringing that NASCAR audience into our audience. So we couldn't ask for anything better. And I also think this time of year, bowling's not usually on, but this time of year, we're not usually in our homes. So it's a completely different world. And we want to take advantage of that and just capture as many eyeballs as we can. And this is when we think they're going to be watching.
Yeah, I personally think it's an excellent time slot. Tom, is there any time, and I know you're the historian here, you know the PBA better than just about anybody I've ever met. Is there ever been a time that we've been on as a sport at that time on a Saturday night?
I don't think so. Not on broadcast like this will be on Big Fox broadcast television. I don't think that's ever happened. I'm pretty confident that that's the case. We've been on primetime. We've been on primetime, you know, on weekdays. But on either ESPN or FS1, but never on a broadcast network. ABC never put us on that late, and we had other shows on CBS, NBC through the years, but never in a prime time slot like this. It makes it really exciting. Gives it a different feel as well, I think, for people watching and for the players and everybody involved. So.
Yeah, to that point, you know, most Saturday nights I would be like, people are going to be out. They're not going to get to watch it. Not now. Saturday nights, people are home. This is when they're going to be glued to their TVs. And especially, you know, having that adjacency to NASCAR, it's a good business strategy to try to get this time slot and prove ourselves. So, you know, what I would say, Mike, is we need the fans. We need the fans to watch. If you love bowling, for the love of bowling, please watch bowling.
Yes, and share. Too.
Yeah, Mike, I mean, Fox has been incredible partners, and throughout this entire thing, constantly talking with Colie and I about what can we do, what can we build here to keep bowling on television, and they've really worked hard to reschedule, find slots, and we want to make it work for them too. You know, that's how the bowling fans can really step up. Is, hey, thank these guys. Look what they're doing with us. This wasn't regularly on our schedule. You know, this is special shows that they're putting together and finding great time slots for us on Big Fox. And like Colie said, I think the fans will show up. Today was awesome. I mean, as soon as we put this note out and I put it on my commissioner page, and I think it had 150 shares within 2 minutes. I mean, everybody's sharing it. Everybody wants to say bowling's back. You know, this is awesome. I can't wait to watch this show. So we're really proud of the fans' initial reaction.
Yeah, this is coming out the other side almost a little bit. I know we're not through all this COVID-19 at all, but this is hope. I mean, this is the first breath of fresh air, really good news that we've had. But I do also want to dive off. I want to get back to the formats here in a moment, but while I'm thinking about it, you know, you guys just had a lot of talking over the last week over something called the PBA League Draft. And I actually said earlier on my show this week that with that particular draft, there were some people sending me messages saying, is this the most overhyped event ever in bowling? And I said on my show, you know what? This is exactly what we need in bowling, because every second of every game in professional sports is criticized to death during, before, after, whenever, right? And for the first time in a long time, everybody was just talking about a PBA League draft. So what did you guys think of the actual publicity that the PBA draft got? I'll give that to you first, Colie.
Well, I think it's a great, it's a great time to do this because we have no action on TV. So let's create our own action. And we did that with the PBA League draft. Our partners over at Flow Bowling produced an amazing, amazing live virtual draft. And it felt, honestly, it had the same excitement and enthusiasm as the NFL draft. I think it also gives a key indicator that people love league bowling, right? So like I've talked about this before, you bowl league as, youth and junior and NCAA and high school. And then, once you get to the pro level, it's individual. So I love, love, love the PBA League. I can see us growing this league in the years to come, and having the fans support it the way they did really just gave me that proof of concept that there's a lot to work with here, and I want to work on expanding it for the future.
Cool. And Tom, what do you think about all the mock drafts and everything that
Yeah, well, outside of bowling media, it was pretty amazing. I mean, Reuters picked up the story, and then the New York Times, picked up that story and posted it on NewYorkTimes.com. I mean, that's pretty awesome. They were, gaining that kind of respect for the PBA and the PBA League, and our draft was cool coming in. And then meanwhile, like you said, I mean, in bowling, all of these shows that have turned up during this pandemic, which I hope they all continue, because it's like constant talk about bowling. And then think of how many people did mock drafts. How many mock drafts did you do yourself, Mike? And that kind of conversation, like you said, that's big time. I mean, who's going to go first? Who's going to get snubbed? Who are they going to take? Who should they take? What's important in bowling? Chemistry, or where you play on the lanes, or experience on TV, or what about this player? What about that player?
And Tom, all of those things, you know what it made me think of? Fantasy and sports betting. Absolutely. And that's another way we are going to grow the PBA. So, I mean, to me, seeing how much everyone was involved at this level, it just gave a lot of legs to the fact that, like, we can take this so much further.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. So it's June the 6th. That's right around the corner. How many days is that from now? I mean, that is quick.
For weeks here, yeah.
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 So June the 6th, 7:00 Eastern, and it'll be on Big Fox. The starts with the Strike Derby, which that was an electric event, like you talked about, Tom.
You remember that?
I do, because Andrew and Sean were trying to bowl with Angela Rummans.
That's right. That's right.
Star, so they both wanted to do that.
You see how many gifs came out of that, or GIFs, however you want to pronounce it. You see how many came out of that, of Angela? I mean, there's a ton of them, of Angela bowling and hugging Andrew Anderson and things like that.
Yeah.
Speaking of hugging, I will tell you, Mike, some other steps that we're taking. There will be no high-fiving. So we're going to have to, really work, because the strike dance is the most epic part of bowling and celebrating your strike. So we're going to have to work on the guys about the social distancing. But we're still really excited to celebrate.
Yeah, and then you guys will be back the following week, an hour earlier on Big Fox with the Summer Clash, as we mentioned. But then there's also in the release here the PBA King of the Lanes, and there's some dates to be announced. What can you tell us about that event?
That's another one that's similar to something we tried years ago. Everybody remembers the King of Bowling that Wes Malott dominated for 5 straight nights. That was on ESPN2. Similar format. We'll decide a king, and then that king will take on a different challenger, every day. And so for several days in a row, we'll be live on FS1 with who's gonna be the next king of the lanes, and we'll throw some other twists in there and things, but that general format has really been the test of time through the history of bowling. That's what's one thing I think is cool about all of these formats and what we're doing here, before we can get back to PBA Tour type competition, is that it really harkens back to the day before the PBA, when bowling really was one of the top, not just sports on TV, but television shows. And most of those shows were game show type of events, where they would invite people on, and it would be either Make That Spare, or Championship Bowling, or King of the Hill, or straight up game show type things like Bowling for Dollars. Bowling for Dollars, right? And those things are all still really fun to watch. And when you get the best players in the world, like we're going to do these events in the kind of format and the way that we can cover bowling today, and bring Strike Track in, and it's going to be, it takes everything up another notch. And I'm real excited.
I think the thing I'm looking most forward to as well with having bowling on television and bowling centers starting to open up a little bit throughout the country. And as they begin to open up, hopefully it will inspire many people to go out and throw the rock around a little bit. And Colie, that will help impact your bowling center business as well. Could you speak to how things are going there?
Yeah, well, I always say it's not just our bowling center business, but it's all bowling centers that the PBA helps to support and grow. It really works as a cycle. The more people who are watching bowling and talking about bowling equals the more people who are going to go bowling. Right now, we're excited that by the end of this week, we'll have almost 50 centers out of our 300 centers open, and we have strict safety standards in place. So it's all about opening up safely and being able to provide like I like to call it, good, clean fun for our guests. And this is the first step in what we hope will be, really opening up throughout the country.
That's awesome. Yeah, I couple quick things for you guys before we let you get out of here. Colie, I've been watching your questions and answers shows over on the PBA social media and YouTube page. Good job with that. Today, I think you have another one coming up here today. Could you tell the folks about that one?
Yeah, tonight's show is going to feature Brad and Kyle. And we took a little bit of a different turn here. It's going to be our take on the newlywed game. So tune in because it's pretty hilarious.
Okay, awesome. And then the next thing I think I wanted to ask you guys about too is obviously with the transition and everything, Tom held 2 roles at the time, and you have come in now and you have accepted one, and Tom has now been broken out to focus on other things. How is the dynamic duo here coming along? Because from an outside observer, I see you both, working hard, and I see more things happening. And just tell us a little bit about how that relationship's been for the two of you, putting on the spot a little bit.
We have a really great partnership, and we're able to divide and conquer when we need to, and then collaborate when we need to. And that's the core of it. I will text Tom at all hours of the day and badger him to do things I need him to do. And he gives it right back to me when I need it. So, I think our partnership is great in that he can really focus on things like the format, the sport, the history, the players. And then I can go out there and focus on the business side of things. We have another partner in Lev Exter, who's not on the call right now, and he's the COO, and he really is focusing on business development, things like sponsorship and sports betting. So I think with the 3 of us, and then also Carissa Del Bene, who's on the team, who wasn't on it before, who is overseeing a lot of our production and marketing, you have someone like Natalie McMahon, who you worked with, who's our creative director. So there's a lot of new blood in that's giving us the chance to move things forward. But I'd say as far as Tom and I working together, it's about divide and conquering when you need to, collaborating when you can. And I've been really happy working with Tom.
Yeah, we worked together on things before the Bolero bought the PBA. I mean, we worked together to bring the PBA Tournament Champions back to Riviera Lanes. We worked together on a few Chris Paul events. I mean, I think that 10-part documentary about Jordan that came out, the 10-part documentary that's going to come out about bowling is going to be about when French Montana and Ronnie Russell won the Chris Paul event. And that was at Colie's Bowling Center in California, and we had a lot of fun that night.
I remember that I had the flu, not the coronavirus. I had the flu. This was 6 years ago. And that was my first CP3. And Tom welcomed me with open arms. And ever since, we've been working closely together for 6 years. So, Tom and I have always known each other, and we've had a great working relationship.
That's cool. One other thing about reality television here, and I'm not going where you think I'm going to be going.
I know where you're going. Okay, fine. Where do you want to go, Mike?
I'm going with Kyle Troop. He was on our show yesterday, and we proposed doing a online version of The Bachelor. And he mentioned on our show that you said, "Hey, Kyle, you should try to be on The Bachelor." Is there any real truth to that, or what do we got to do to get Kyle Troop on The Bachelor?
So, he was named by, I think, Barstool Sports as the most eligible PBA bachelor. So we're just kind of feeding that into it and getting it into his head. So he thinks that he's good enough to audition for The Bachelor, and then I'll do all the PR for him. And I think it'd be great for the sport of bowling to have a pro bowler on The Bachelor.
But wait,
amazing.
But didn't Flow Bowling already do a whole video about Kyle going on a dating service or something like that? You can just use that clip. I mean, that was fantastic.
That will be his audition tape, and we're good.
Okay. Well, I'm telling you right now, we talked about it at length yesterday. You can go back and watch the show. I know you guys have been busy, but you can watch the show. We want Kyle to do this because he would get so many followers. My goodness. I mean, just the person that he is, and it would be so much for bowling. So we're in your corner on that one. So before we get out of here, final words from each of you that you may want to say to folks that maybe I didn't cover here. We'll start with you, Tom. We'll let Colie wrap it up.
Just thanks to everybody for hanging in there. I was really happy at the draft to be able to thank all the product registered companies and the BPA and the USBC and all the pro shops around the country, all the bowling centers, all the league bowlers, the youth bowlers. Thanks for hanging in there. We're going to give you a lot of fun to watch on TV, and then you're going to want to get back out on those lanes and hit them good. So thank you very much to everybody involved in the entire industry.
Yeah, I echo that sentiment. Bowling is back. We can't do it without the support of our tour sponsor, Go Bowling, our partners over at PWBA and the USBC, and all of you who are watching and engaging with us while we're offline. We're going to be back online, and we hope you watch us there too. I just want to thank again. I know that there's a lot of bowlers who are on the front line, so my heart always goes out to you all, and keep tuning in, whether it's digitally or please tune in on the broadcast network, because bowling is back. PBA Tour returns with our special events starting June 6th.
That is absolutely awesome. And I want to thank both of you again for your time today on such short notice, but big news today. I thought it was necessary to get some answers out there, and I can't thank you both enough for coming on the show today.
All right. Bang, bang.
Thanks for having us. Elbows.
Thanks again.